Okay, this is in some ways sort of an intelligence update, which simply means I'm experiencing what I experience that I share with all of you by virtue of what I'm aware of, by running a high-speed router, right? A hub server. And why I get the information when I do, because I'm supposed to experience the information, because of why I experience the information, why I'm supposed to know, right? Just like all of you, right? Running a vortex, right? So when you're running at hyperspeed, that's a high-speed vortex. That's a lot of data. That's spinning a lot of visual, mathematical, geographical information that's rated to a map grid, right? On consciousness, the expansion of consciousness, experiencing more energy, more powerful broadband, right? Sound compression, compression breakthrough, inhalation, right? Expansion of consciousness. I tweaked my spine, up my upper vertebrae and my back, going out this morning and really doing some heavy duty breath work. And you know how that is with your diaphragm, right? On the contraction and compression of energy. And then breathing fire. Because I was seeing how the expansion of pink was bigger circles of pink, in the sky. And then after that, I came back in there. I went, whoa. You know how energy works, right? When you're you know how it works with contraction and then expansion, right? The inductor. So my upper thoracic vertebrae is tweaked, right? So you realize you stretch some cartilage and all that, right? So it'll heal, right? So it's one of the reasons why it's important when you go out in the ocean and you swim every day and really work your lungs, all your tissue, your cartilage and everything, and really expand everything, and you're getting a lot more biovoltage out of the ocean, right? And I realize I haven't been in the ocean for a while, and I need to jump back in there with a pair of fins and do some body surfing and accelerate the elasticity of my spine and renew it and all that and get back into Olympic swimming shape, right? Being a fish again, being a whale again. Remembering the memory of a whale, what it's like to swim like a whale in the ocean, because you have access to the memory like an avatar, right? To be able to swim just like a whale does, which means the memory what the whale is experiencing by virtue of what it's experiencing and recording, the manner in which it's experiencing all the music that is playing in the ocean, and the way that the form and spiritual flow of that energy is going through the saltwater ocean. You have access to that, to experience what the whale is experiencing, right? Going with the flow and experiencing when I'm out in the ocean, flowing the same way that a whale does, singing songs of library. So, Karen Ann McDonald, 13th Arcturian White Bear Clan mother, posted a message up there about Sergeant Patty Broussard. Had mentioned that the cleanup crew was proceeding nicely, and the white hat military, what have you, is doing their job. And so one of the things that I do is I monitor traffic. You know what it means to monitor? You're running a route or a high-speed vortex. So I become aware of what I become aware of. So I monitor by different places that I go to see the changes that are taking place through speakerphones, which would be the GUI interface. Am I experiencing a different translation in the language, which means I'm not getting reverse speech analysis or a negative 13 Metatronic spiral. I realize that the frequencies that I'm translating through the speakerphone, particularly on channels like Blade with what's his name, Glenn Beck, who was on Fox News. These are big subscription, units of consciousness that are plugged into mass media that have been running those programs, because that's what it is, the program. That's why we interrupt your program, mass media programming. So your vortex, which means your RAM, is spinning and experiencing all the API and stuff, which is an application program interface to the planetary memory bank of everybody connected and plugged into a Gaia motherboard, right? Mama. And so you see how the planetary memory works, right? Of what's held in planetary memory banks we have access to, right? Which is the morphogenetic field structure. And Rupert Sheldrake did a brilliant job of exposing sort of how the collective consciousness communicates with each other between species, that is represented by the DNA, that is represented by what's held in cellular memories by that DNA, right? So believe it or not, and I know this because I've experienced this because of what I know about my energy, which is everywhere, is you have the ability to experience what's happening with other species on the planet. And that includes the reproduction, right? The reproductive rates at which they're reproducing. And you can actually measure from species to species on the entire planet which ones are going to go extinct first, which ones are going to be able to have a successful reproductive history across the entire planetary terrain. Right? So we measure stuff like that because that has a lot to do with what? Maintaining balance between the two poles. Okay, so in this particular instance, when she mentioned that, yeah, I've noticed things like Bill O'Reilly. He's now, you know what it means to sing a different tune? Okay. They're getting the message. So now that's called feedback. I'm getting the feedback, which is why I monitor the channel to see if I'm hearing a different tune. That's like a different vibe. You're translating the frequencies of the language of math and geometry. So you realize these are the changes that you would expect to see, right? To take a piece out of history, in World War II, at the end of World War II, after Germany was defeated, although they weren't really defeated, right? They simply migrated to the NSA and CIA, right? How all that was set up. The entire NSA apparatus, the National Security Act, was all set up because all you got to do is take a look at who Reinhard Gehlen is. Reinhard Gehlen got a blank check when he came into the CIA, and who was he? He ran the security apparatus for the Nazis over on the Russian front, and known as the Eastern Front, when Germany, when was that, June of 1941, attacked Russia, right? Army Group North, Army Group Central, Army Group South, right? And so Gehlen was brought in, who was Hitler's intelligence chief on the Eastern Front. He came into the CIA, right? So they set up all their apparatus, the intelligence agencies, otherwise known as the 5-0s, Hawaii 5-0. I know. And so what I wanted to cover today is the fact that I'm really, other ways that you can see the changes that are taking place, to be able to read the tea leaves when you're monitoring certain stations, particularly mass media that have large subscriber rates. They're beginning to realize things are changing. I'm not hearing the same stuff coming out of these mouthpieces, right? And so, like Tucker Carlson, all the standard speakerphones that have been on the Nazi mass media platforms for years and 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 years, ever since I was a little kid, which is why I told my parents, turn that off. Right? That's why I had a habit. Anytime I saw a commercial, they're selling me my own energy back. Turn it off. Turn the channel. Turn the channel. Turn the channel. I don't want to hear that programming. I don't want to put that loaded into my RAM. Because you already know what they represent. They're inverters. So when you know this at that early of an age in the 1950s, you see where we're at now. And where this is particularly true is when I was looking at, naturally what's going to pop up was Sheriff Grady Judd, who is a sheriff in Polk County, Florida. I see things from time to time to see how he's doing. And you could say, oh, well, this is just all what we call masquerading. They want us to believe that they're really doing these things behind the scenes, but you don't have any way to verify that what they put in our face is actually true. Because they've been doing that for a long time, which means they lie to your face about everything, right? But in this particular case, there are certain key words that come out of that mouth, okay? And there was one that Sheriff Grady said this afternoon that's like, righto, buddy boy. All he had to do was say one word. And if you understand how to read the tea leaves, which is called code talk, he said one word: re-victimize. Now, when you understand the spiritual practices of how that works when we get to an energetic chord, he was coming out to show a big bust of child pornography. And he made an emphasis on a comment that he said about why the pictures of the child do not want to be re-seen again by others' consciousness. Consciousness is this energy, and that's a consciousness-directed energy mirror. when you show the face of a child that's been brutally raped and tortured, and that soul has been fragmented, okay? Then that means that when another unit of consciousness energy is plugged into the planetary memory bank, that child's memory is plugged in based on the identity of that child, which is a real living child with a soul or a spirit. When your energy is looking at her picture, which is a real being, then your energy is re-experiencing what that child experiencing that is running through the memory bank. That means that your energy is being used to re-experience what's held in her memory to be re-experienced again. That makes that recording go on and on and on and on, because the planetary consciousness energy in the morphogenetic field structure through the planetary memory bank is facilitating that child to keep experiencing that through your energy. That means that's maintaining that energetic cord so that that recording doesn't get shut off. So that child needs to heal. So when he said re-victimize, bang. Okay? Because the energy that's being siphoned off from stuff like that, where do you think it goes? It's feeding a deadlight magnet, which is a war game video. Okay? That's the truth of it. It accelerates the amount of loose that is going into a galactic black hole. It's being sucked down a pipe. It's what it feeds on. Dead energy. That's called an altar. That's what happens when those are fractured. That's why polarity integrators are in here in force. Okay? That would be a lot of your indigo ones. Okay? That's why I think she mentioned some time ago about different waves that are keeping to come in here, which is like holding the fort down, right? Because when the inverters overrun the accelerators, you lose it. That's called a collapse. Like a total collapse, right? So that is a torque speed differential measurement, otherwise known as a Bartow point. So anyway, I wanted to thank the Polk County Sheriff's Department, and as a matter of fact, everybody that he on different occasions has come out there with, I guess it is the Attorney General of the state of Florida, other folks that are other police chiefs, other county sheriffs. He's had folks that come out in the international community, which would be folks in the federal level, the state level, and the international level that these folks work with, because he's mentioned many times, this is actually international, but it's interplanetary and intergalactic in scope. Okay? So I wanted to thank you personally, Sheriff Judd, because, imagine the amount of trauma this sheriff goes through every day he comes to work, what he's got to deal with. And all the energy that he's using in his own soul, spirit, consciousness in order to do what? Cut that supply off. All the adrenochrome stuff, the vampiric stuff, right? Which is like turn the spigot off, shield up. It's done feeding on us. That's what it means to have a planetary and a galactic and a universal shield up. There's a firewall. Separation of spirals. One that's dead, one that's living. That's what it is. Have a great evening. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.